Things beyond our understanding seem superhuman, and since the dawn of human history we have claimed that superhuman is supernatural, of the gods. Arguably the most general law of the universe, because all the others can be derived from it, is the very pedestrian-sounding second law of thermodynamics. Evolution is itself an expression of this law, as complexity increases thanks to the sun's energy acting on matter, and the environment extinguishes any of those complex products which are ineffective. The complexity builds progressively, and through it all there is a clear path. Energy constructs cells from molecules, organisms from cells, communities from organisms, and reflective consciousness from organisms and communities. And the build-up of complexity continues. The discovery of this process is regarded by many as the brightest gem in the sparkling crown of human intellectual achievement, which is science. Science has become the poster child, the wunderkind of rational, evidence-based thought, and for good reason, its spectacular success. But this dominance has blinded many to the fact that it has largely neglected the subjective, the first-person reality that we all live in. It is reductionist in this sense. While it aspires to a full description, it reduces the world we are embodied in to a third-person objective perspective. So it has so far failed to attain the potential as the enlightener of our reality, a reality which is, in the beginning and end, subjective and first-person. Science has so far tackled the more accessible domain of what is commonly called reality, the material, the physical. This is because it can explore and interrogate this domain in an objective way. The foremost subdomain of scientific inquiry since the 17th century is the physical world, physics, and other domains that were previously metaphysical and left out of this Enlightenment rush of success had to try to become more amenable to physical examination. This is how studies of more complex systems like geology and biology in the 18th and 19th centuries, and psychology, economics and sociology in the 20th century developed, less easily reduced for objective analysis. But these so-called human sciences have an element that the physical sciences don't have. They are descriptions of human experience, and although human experience can be described objectively in the third person, they are never actually experienced this way. They belong to the domain of the first person, subjectivity. After Newton, a planet is not going to protest that its course around the sun is due to the gravitational pull of the sun, despite the fact that Einstein showed that this metaphor was inadequate. But a person may well protest that his or her feeling of awe at the vision of an angel is due to the activation of an archetypal image in the collective unconscious, for example. It is not what he or she feels. It may do as a third-person objective explanation, but is empty of an explanation or description of the quality and intensity of lived experience. So despite the many clarifications that science have given to the world of human experience, there is a persistent core that makes many people unable to assent to the objective findings. The most savage reduction of science has been that reduction of the subjective first person to the objective third person perspective. By this I mean the explanations of actual first person subjective experience, like falling in love for example, to an analysis of oxytocin. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it isn't the last word, and nothing of the felt power of love is carried in its analysis. The same is true of experiences around mystery, the sense of the miraculous, death, the soul, God. They are not dealt with by objective science. Religions address them, but often religions relinquish rational thinking and the safeguards of evidence and become fantasy. The way forward needs to restore the first-person perspective within a rational, evidentially based description. For example, we can think of two essentially opposed ways to consider reality. The first is magical reality, where the supernatural, often God or spirits, steps in and suspends the laws of physics. The search for understanding might as well stop here, because whatever rules we think we discern might, at the whim of a supernatural agent, be overruled. We must insist on rationality, evidence and consistency, because the quest is only worth continuing if the rules are. In fact, the world that is cut across by supernatural magical events is far more impoverished. Consider the two ways of interpreting the famous biblical feeding of the 5,000. It's either a rather pointless show of magical power, which may impress people, but has no transcendent or transformative clout, or it is a quite amazing event where the hearts of 5,000 selfish people who are hiding their food rather than sharing it are so transformed by teachings about love that their natures are changed to one of generosity and they give their food to the common good. This is truly miraculous. Similarly, what frightened construct do some people have of a God when they think that by thanking him in advance he will cough up money or cars or houses, but is unmoved by starving children and raped women in Darfur, for example? Such a God image fails to communicate the most fundamental experience we humans have in the presence of the great mystery beyond explanation. Where is the loving, merciful, transforming power in this model of God? No, unless I'm prepared to do violence to both the most basic sense of morality and rational thinking, I am forced to seek answers in a natural, not a supernatural universe. It is my contention that such a search would yield an enchanted universe, where the mysterious is honoured and understood as natural. Nor is this a denial of the great metaphysical mysteries, just a determination to look further than cheap supernatural explanation for the transformative natural explanation, the enchantment of the natural, the search for soul in the natural, not a flight from reason to find it in fantasy. The true miracle is that this natural world is impregnated through and through, atom by atom, with the divine, the numinous, the transcendent. This is what is meant by the Christian doctrine of the Incarnation. The Gnostics were declared heretical in the 2nd century because their teachings claimed a dualistic divinity, magically separating from the natural world. But Orthodox Christian teaching insisted that the divine was embodied in the natural, incarnate. That was the significance of the Incarnation, that Christ was true God and true man. The magical insistence of this as a literal truth rather than a deep metaphor about the place and source of the transcendent in our world of nature impoverishes our experience. The Buddha's teaching of anatta, no soul, is an expression of the same deep truth, that it is not in dreams or fantasies of mystical powers or halls of levitating rishis or gurus, but in our own embodied, lived experience, closely examined, that we find the enlightened path, nirvana.